Hello there, everybody. This is SabSan43 back again. This time with a Star Wars Battlefront Heroes versus Villains gameplay on. I have no clue what this map is, but Heroes versus Villains. I got Battlefront recently at my local Walmart because I got one on sale for 40 bucks, and because Sweaty Pop already had it, and I played it a few times, and it looked like a pretty cool game. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy this. But today, I wanted to do something that I'm not sure, it may become a recurring thing, I don't know, but I wanted to do sort of like a story time commentary. And because this is a Star Wars video, I wanted to talk about how I was introduced to Star Wars as a kid, and how like my fandom has continued to this day, I guess you would say. But anyway, let's start at the beginning, because that's a very good place to start. But anyway, let's start when I was around 7 or 8 years old. The first time I ever watched a Star Wars movie was on a VHS copy of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. I watched it on a little tiny 13-inch TV, and I had rented it from the local like video rental store that had just opened up. It was called Video Storm. I had gone in with my, I think just my mom, and I was like, hey, can I rent this? Because I had always heard about Star Wars, because the term Star Wars, whether you watch the movie or not, you're going to hear it in just pop culture. It's so ingrained. So I saw one of the Star Wars movies. I saw Episode 6, and I was like, hey, Mom, can I get this? And she's like, sure. So I went and I watched it. The first time I ever watched a Star Wars movie was on VHS and on a tiny little 13-inch TV. But from the very beginning, just from the first time I watched that movie, it kind of amazed me with like how well the universe was built and how great the story was, that immediately I wanted to watch the other two movies in the original trilogy. And of course, at that time, episodes 1 and 2 of the prequel trilogy had been released as well. But I immediately wanted to watch episodes 4 and 5. So about within a week, I think my dad had gotten me the original trilogy set on DVD. It was in the gold packaging. I don't know if any of you guys have the same set, but so I ended up binge watching that trilogy set within the next week. I watched each movie like 3 or 4 times. And then after that, I didn't buy, but I borrowed episodes 1 and 2 from people and watched them, and I liked them well enough when I was a kid, because there's lots of lightsaber fights and there's lots of lasers and ships, and yay, they were fun to watch. And at that time, like Star Wars was huge in my mind. Like I had all the toys, I had probably 3 or 4 lightsabers, and I even went as Obi-Wan Kenobi for Halloween one time. But then, so then I was really big into Star Wars for probably 3 or 4 years, 2 or 3, 3 or 4, I don't know, a good few years. Then probably around the time I was 11 or 12, I became a little less into Star Wars, and that was around the time when I became really, really into the Harry Potter series, reading all the books and watching the movies. Not that I didn't like the Star Wars series as well, but I was just kind of shifting towards a different series, and I did for a while. Like I read each Harry Potter book probably at least 10 or 15 times over. But then around 2012, it was in 2012 I think, what seemed like the impossible happened, the impossible for a Star Wars fan anyway happened, and George Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney, and it was announced that there was going to be another trilogy of movies coming out. So the little inner 8-year-old inside of me screamed with delight. And at that point, I went back and I rewatched all of the movies. And I kind of started to realize at that point that the prequel trilogy was not all that great. Because I wasn't a kid anymore. I wasn't so focused on just amazing lasers and swords and stuff. And I started to realize a lot of the flaws in the storytelling and just Jar Jar. But I mean, I still like the prequels prequel movies for what it's. But I can watch them and enjoy them and have a good time. They're not terrible movies. If you compare them to the original trilogy, it's there's not really much of a comparison. But anyway, so after the news came out, Lucasfilm was sold. I rewatched all the movies. I kind of got back into it again, and then the lead up to episode 7 last fall was probably one of the most interesting pop cultural events I've been a part of, I think. Happened. It was pretty crazy, just being around for the lead up, because I wasn't around for obviously any of the original trilogy's releases. I obviously wasn't around for those. I wasn't alive yet. And then any of the prequel trilogy's releases, I would be too young to remember. Well, I mean, really remember what it was like. But being around for this release was one of the weirdest and coolest at the same time pop cultural things I've been around for, because it kind of like it was just so big that it was like just sort of getting into like every aspect of social life. I guess like everything that you could imagine was, and everything possible you could imagine was branded Star Wars. Like for a while, I think there was like Star Wars branded oranges and branded bottles of water. Like literally everything on the lead up was branded Star Wars, and then like everywhere on TV, the ads. Every time you watch, every 20 minutes of TV, there'd probably be 2 or 3 ads for Star Wars, and then just the insane lead up, and then I ended up going. It was weird. We had like not a midnight showing of it, but like earlier in the night, earlier in the night at like Thursday at 7 o'clock, my theater had a showing, which I thought was odd because like it was released on the Friday, but it wasn't a midnight showing. It was a 7 p.m. showing. I'm like, okay, but of course I went to the earliest showing I possibly could, and I didn't end up going with anybody that time because I think all my friends who are Star Wars fans were all busy that night or something. But I wanted to see it as early as it came out, so I was getting into the theater to watch that. And I have to say that the experience of being in a jam-packed theater with everybody who is of the same mind as you, they're like, because everybody had that early of a showing, they're gonna all be at least pretty hardcore Star Wars fans. So everybody in the theater all being like of the same mind and all like reacting and cheering and sighing and going "Aww" at like the same time as you is a pretty crazy experience. I'd say the only comparable I have is the time I went to the midnight release of the last Harry Potter movie. That was also pretty crazy. But if anything, I think this one might have been more so because like everybody knew the Harry Potter movies were coming, but like this was something that nobody thought it was going to happen for a while, and then once it came out that it was going to happen, people waited 3 years before it actually happened, and then of course eventually it came out, and I personally, it was a very divisive movie last fall, but I personally loved it. I didn't mind that it took a lot of inspiration from the original trilogy because, well, I mean, that was what we were asking for when the prequel trilogy came out. Everybody's like, I wish it was more like the original trilogy. Personally, I loved Force Awakens. I ended up going to it a second time with Sody Pop and then another one of our friends, Josh, who's actually going to be living in an apartment next semester with me, Sody Pop, and Nick. So I went to a second time. I loved it just as much the second time. I still haven't gotten it on DVD yet. It's came out a good like 2 or 3 months ago, and I still haven't gotten it on DVD yet. But I'm sure I will soon. But yeah, the memory of just being in the theater with everybody all reacting the same way, like that'll be a cool cinematic memory I'll keep for a long time. And course, I'm excited for, well, I'm cautiously optimistic about Rogue One because the news that came out recently, it's getting a bunch of rewrites and reshoots, and I think they said they were hiring a new director, so I'm like, please be good. The trailer looked so good. But I'm not sure really what to think of what's going to happen with Rogue One. I hope it's really good. I'm really excited for it. There's so many good actors in it. And I don't know, I'm excited for that. I hope it's good. And then, of course, I'm excited for Episode 8 with the way Force Awakens ended. So, of course, I'm excited for that one. But yeah, it's a good time to be a Star Wars fan. And, of course, this game came out last fall, I think it was. So, I mean, it's a good time to be a Star Wars fan. As I never really thought that we'd be getting to this point again after Episode 3 came out. And those 2 years after, I never thought we'd be coming back to this point. But we're here, and I've been loving it. So yeah, Star Wars in my mind, like, it was the first series to really show me what good storytelling can do, I guess. Like, get you completely immersed in another universe, and just how well, like, the universe is built. And, well, I don't really love looking back at the prequel trilogy, but, like, speaking of only the original trilogy, like, just how when you combine amazing characters with an amazingly built universe, how great the stories can be. And then in my mind, probably Star Wars and Harry Potter are right up there, tied in my mind, and what influenced how I look at stories. But anyway, I hope you guys liked my ramblings on my love for Star Wars over this 19-6 heroes versus villains gameplay. I thought it was a pretty good gameplay, and I just kind of wanted to talk about my loves for Star Wars, and I guess a little bit of Harry Potter got in there. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.